and welcome to another Teacher Talk sessions tonight. Teacher Talks 81. Yes, tonight we are going to have our 81st sessions, and tonight we are going to have another a very special guest from different part of the world as usual. Yes, and tonight our guest is Jim Fuller, and he is an English teacher and teacher trainer and manager and also blogger. Tonight we are going to talk about with him lots of things in teacher talk sessions, and when he comes we are going to start our live sessions with him. I think he's here. He wants to join the session. Let me take him to the session so I don't want to waste. Yes, I'm sure that we are going to have a very fruitful session with Jim. Waiting for him to join. Yes, I think we can't see him.
I think I need to turn it around.
He's here, but not here.
But here, but not here. Okay, let me do this.
No, we just see your chair and your jacket and and your wall. Yeah, it looks pretty nice.
Okay, here we
go. There he is. Yeah, hello. It's great to see you.
It's great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's great to see you here, Jim, and it's really nice fun. And okay, and by the way, and I would like to say thank you to accept my invitation to Teacher Talks, and I hope we are going to have a very fruitful session with you tonight, Jim. It's really great honor to have you. All right.
I'm looking forward to the welcome. Thank you.
Okay, then if you are ready, we can start.
Ready to
All
go.
right then. So I know about you, Jim, and maybe our listeners and would like to know about you. So can you tell us about yourself, please, and a bit about your experience too?
Of course. Well, my name is Jim. I am a teacher, a trainer, a manager, and a blogger. I work in Spain. I've worked in basically in Italy and Spain have been the major areas where I've taught English. And I mean, sort of personal me, I am from Australia. I'm half Australian, half British.
Wow.
Have traveled around the world a little bit. And yeah, I'm not sure. Any other specific information that you want?
No, it's your choice. Maybe you can talk about your ELT experiences just a little bit.
Okay, so I started. We're going back a little while now. I started in Italy, in Bologna, in the north of Italy, teaching. Pretty much, I sort of was thrown into everything. I was teaching sort of VYL, very very young children, and teen sort of exam classes. And I can still remember I was thrown a number of, for example, C1 and C2 classes with adult and business students, and I just was not prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, but these are the experiences I imagine that many of us go through. And since then, I spent a number of years in Italy and Bologna, and then I did my Delta after a number of years, and that kind of motivated me to really develop and stay in the industry. And make a professional career out of this. And then I moved to Spain after a number of years, and I've been living and working in Spain now for about 5 years or so. And now I'm the director of a small language academy in the north of Spain.
I see. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jim. So when you think about your own education, what was or were your turning point or points in it?
Oof, that's a good question, Volkan. I think specifically to language teaching. Because before I was a language teacher, I was in the Australian military.
Really?
And so I left school and I went to I went to the military, and then I left the military and I came to Europe. And so the education that I had was limited really to high school. I didn't actually go to university at the time. And then when I came into EOT, my education focus, like many sort of teachers, I suppose, was a pre-service course, a Cert TESOL. And after a time, I realized that that wasn't really much, as I can imagine most teachers do after a time. Hence why I decided to take on other things such as the Delta and the MA that I'm doing now. In terms of those turning points, the reasons that I think I decided to go further or push myself to take on more courses and to develop more is because I found passion in this job. Like many of us out there, I imagine yourself working with students, and now I work with teachers as well, and I found passion in that. And so that's what really pushed me to go further.
I see. I understand. It's an interesting point, but it's a nice point. Thank you, Jim, to share about it. But it's really interesting that you are in the military and then you decided to I think you stopped being over there and you moved to another career. It's interesting, but it's nice.
I mean, it's very different. I mean, people often contrast them. I think that there are many transferable skills, but certainly very different dynamic. But no, I wouldn't change it. I really enjoy it.
I see. I'm sure that you didn't bring your war skills into the education.
No. Why not? Sometimes dealing with little kids is like a battlefield, but no, no.
It's great. It's wonderful. I'm just kidding. That it's nice. That. All right then. And again, my next question is about your teaching. When you think about your whole career, I mean, ELT career. So probably you have a kind of a philosophy in teaching. So what is it? What is your philosophy of teaching, Jim?
I mean, that's a very complex question. I think it's a number of parts. I think one thing that makes up quite a large part of my philosophy is to learn by doing. I think that can sort of translate to many sort of areas in language teaching. I'm very much against, sort of, not against it, but I prefer, for example, with teaching, for learners to use language to learn language rather than to learn about language to use language. And I'm not sure if it's the same for you, Volkan, but this is one aspect of one part of my philosophy of teaching that I think is very important for me, and it transfers not only, it's not in my teaching, but it's also in my training with teachers as well. Would you say something similar for yourself?
No, I it's kind of different things, because you know, when I think of my philosophy, the students at the center should be the center of the lesson, always.
100%.
Always.
Yeah.
Something like this. All right, I think there is a okay, thank you. There is a question, if you can see that. What were the transferable skills? I think you mentioned about.
I mean, I think there are quite a few transferable skills. When people think of the military, they think about guns and explosions and things like that. Of course, those are certainly part of the military, but certain managerial skills and understanding how to work with people or work as a team, especially now that I'm working as a director of studies of an academy, I think those skills come in handy. And being aware, I mean, within the military, situational awareness, understanding what's going on in your class, I think is vital as teachers. And in terms of monitoring our learners' progress and being very much understanding of where our learners are in their learning process. I think that's something that teachers do anyway, but I found certain skills from the military.
I see. I see. Thank you. Thank you very much for the answer, Jim. Okay, so let's move to another question. So we know that you have been living in Spain for a long time. I think you said 5-6 years or something like this. Yeah. So when you
Yeah.
think about the whole years that you've been in Spain, what are the advantages and disadvantages of working in Spain, like as an English teacher, trainer, and as a manager?
Okay, so if we start with advantages, okay, so we're going to look at a number of things. Socially, Spain is amazing. I mean, the food,
Yeah,
the culture here is very
definitely.
friendly, very open. Lots of everyone is very friendly and very agreeable. Um, I think also Spain is quite close to other countries in terms of, obviously Europe is quite well connected.
Hmm.
So when I grew up in Australia, Australia is ginormous, but it's just Australia. There's nothing else, right? And so that's one of the things that I think is really, really amazing for me for being in Spain. Um, Spain has its downsides, certainly. There is a lot of work here as language teachers, um, but in terms of financial remuneration, um, the economic market in Spain means that most jobs are not well paid. So it's for example, a teacher may earn quite a lot more teaching English in let's say somewhere in the Middle
I
East
see.
or in the UK, but perhaps they have not as good weather or less variety of food. I don't know. I think it's quite personal. Um, have you ever been to
No,
Spain?
not Spain, but many other countries. But I had no chance to go to Spain. Maybe in the future, if I can.
Exactly. Maybe in the
Yeah.
future. After
Yeah,
coronavirus, hopefully
probably
you
after
have.
coronavirus. All right. So, yeah, it's I know that it's a really amazing country, the Spain, but I hope we have a chance to visit one day the Spain. And probably
Yeah.
if you still be there, and maybe we could see each other.
Yes, this is a
Yeah, all
must.
right,
Okay,
definitely.
100%.
Okay then. All right, so let's move to another question, Jim. So as we know that there are lots of approaches in ELT, to teach. Like when you think about these
Mm.
approaches, what is the best approach in ELT for you?
Oh, well, again, you can't ask me that because the teachers are going to shoot me. And no, it is. I mean, what is the best approach or method? That's a question that's been
Okay.
asked for. I mean, seriously, probably for the last 100 years, 150 years, I suppose. Um, I don't think there is a best approach or method. If anyone follows my blog, those people will recognize that I'm a strong advocate of task-based language teaching. Um, However, I don't think that there's one approach or method that's suitable to every
Mm-hmm.
context. And there are advantages and disadvantages to certain things. What I think is important is that if teachers do decide to follow an approach or a method or a technique or use an activity, then they do so principally so they understand why they're doing it and the
Mm-hmm.
effects of that.
I see.
And so, I mean, there's quite a number of books that have been written on sort of that they say that we're in the post-method era, and so methods are sort of dying. I think methods are still living strong in 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 certain places and with certain um, teachers and so on and so forth. But um, teachers very rarely follow methods now, and even if they are
Yeah.
prescribed, there are
Mm-hmm.
always teachers' own variations of these. And even for myself, I'm a strong advocate of task-based language teaching, but I don't think I would follow, for example, Mike Long's version
I
of
see.
task-based language
Uh-huh.
teaching. Um, so so I think it's very personal. But my advice to teachers out there is if whatever you do follow, understand what you're doing and
I
the
see.
reasons and the rationale
Uh-huh.
behind your activities. Would you
Yeah,
agree
sure,
about
sure,
that?
problem. Totally. There is no the best approach. I can say that it depends on the students that you teach, or their characteristics, depends on it. Yeah, definitely. There's only, we can, for example, you can use, for example, direct method, or for example, communicative approach, or whatever, lots of new methods and techniques. I'm just giving an example. So you can use mix of them. Sometimes you can use just one approach to use it, or maybe you even don't use any kind of approach, use different techniques to use it. It's as the whatever you say, that everything I agree. And there is a Mert Çoban says the methods are a result of the great experiences and experiments. Nobody can ever dare to debunk them, just partly criticize. Yeah, somehow we can say that. All right. And there is a question. I don't want to miss the questions. Dilek Hocam asks, I think, but I can't see it. What Spanish students find most difficult with regard to learning a new language, according to your experiences? What do they find most difficult in learning a new language?
I think you could break that down into certain components or certain aspects of, or mainly systems, perhaps, with English. Obviously, my experience with Spanish students is through teaching English. I'm not sure about other languages. Certainly, if we talk about the sort of the macro elements of language and culture and tradition, I think most of my students, at least culturally with me, there's not too much of a difference. So I don't see that as an issue. And some of the aspects that perhaps Spanish students do have problems with are maybe to do with certain aspects of grammar or phonology that are quite different to that in English. But I think they're probably quite similar to what other learners of English from other countries around the world struggle with as well. But I don't want to simplify it. We often think of just grammar and vocabulary, but language is far more complex than that. And so, yes, grammar and vocabulary certainly are things that learners
struggle with. That I see. The most difficult parts, I think, for them. Okay, thank you, Jim.
Right.
And so let's move to another question, which is actually related with you. And we know that you are writing a blog, and your experience about writing a blog. And what do you think about the blog writings about ELT? And can all of them useful? And another question is, which is related again with it, can every teacher write a blog about ELT or anything?
Okay, so to answer that last question, Burkan, yes, every teacher can and should, in my opinion, write a blog. Whether they put that blog out to the public is up to them. I mean, I suppose we think of blogs and they're on the internet and everyone can read them, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, I think. Blogs. I actually ran a workshop for teachers on this at a conference recently. And I did some research for this, and I asked a number of bloggers around the world, to tell me about their experiences of blogging. So it wasn't just my own. And the response was that most of them have found having a blog very, very positive in terms of development. And a number of teachers and EOT professionals, because it's not only teachers. For example, there are copy editors and many other different professions within EOT, and they found them. Almost half of the people that I spoke with had it had a positive effect on employment.
I see.
So they were able to find better jobs because of, not better jobs, perhaps be put in the running for employment. So yes, I think that teachers should blog, not to get better jobs, but to develop as teachers. And there are loads of blogs out there. Some may be useful to you as a teacher. Some may not be useful. But I think that the blog is very, very personal.
I see.
It's for you, So, but yeah, those are my thoughts. Those are my 2 cents.
I see. I understand. So it's like using writing a blog. It doesn't something like that you get a better job. That's a good point. Like if you're writing a blog, it's you write to put something to yourself, like improve yourself, and you write to share your ideas with others, if whoever they like it to read it,
Yeah.
something useful to do it. But definitely it helps, because every day writing a blog probably gives lots of the chances to see your knowledge, and to have a chance to share your knowledge and the things that you do with not only to the people that the all around the world. You have a chance to share it. Of course, some probably somehow they like it, and some others they don't like it, but it doesn't matter, I think. But sometimes, have you? And
That's
I'll
okay.
ask you a question. Have you ever had a negative comment on your blogs from someone else?
Yes, I've had comments that have perhaps been related to my blog post. Yes, but I don't see them as. I mean, I've never had anything saying anything negative about
Uh-huh.
me. It's
Of
more about
course,
the
about the
content
content.
that I've written. But no, I view this as sort of, this is the professional part of our industry, depending how it's conveyed, of course. But you need to open yourself out. If you put it onto the internet, you need to be accepting that people are going to have different opinions.
Sure.
And I think this is this is what makes blogging quite reflective.
I see.
It opens up this dialogic element. People can write comments, they can respond, they can
Uh-huh.
challenge your
Mm-hmm.
ideas. And I think it's good to be challenged, because it either it makes you think about your ideas more, and perhaps you change your uh, opinion, or it makes you think about your ideas more, and it strengthens your conviction towards a
I
certain
see.
opinion. So yes, I have received certain negative comments, but I viewed them as quite interesting to respond to.
I see. Thank you. Thank you. There are some questions are here, but I think it's about that they talking
Oh,
to each
okay.
other. No, 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 it's okay. They just asking questions to each other about something about the Mert and Dilek hocam. They're talking about this kind of logical preferences, which one you respect or something like this. Okay. By the way, I just wanted to remind you that if you have a question to Jim, please is it write it into the question part so I can see it better, because while when we talk here, so sometimes we can miss the questions here, so I can't ask him to it. But if you write in the question part, so I can see it and I can divert your questions easily to Jim. All right, so let's move to another question. Thank you very much, Jim, for the answer of the question. So let's look at another point. Is about, actually this is really important. I'm really wondering what are you going to say about it. It's about the native speakerism, which is really important and topic, and not nowadays, for a long times. What do you think about the native speakerism? And by the way, can every native speaker of English teach the language at schools or courses or etc.? What do you think about it?
I think you've touched on a very important subject that we need to open up more discussion about. I Okay, let me start from the start of my teaching journey, perhaps. When I came into the industry, I took advantage of my nativeness, if you will, without understanding what I was doing. I didn't even know what native speakerism was when I came into the industry. But then I started working with people that knew my language better than I did, and it sort of, yeah, at least at an explicit level, right? And so I started to learn about the different aspects of native speakerism in the industry. My current thoughts on it, if anyone, as I said, has read my blog, that they will know that I've written out against native speakerism. I think it is a blemish on our industry
Mm-hmm.
that severely undermines the professionalism of EOT. I do think that to be judged solely on your place of
I
birth,
see.
and sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's native speakerism also runs along the lines of racism at times as well. So I think it is something that is severely damaging to our industry. Where do I see things happening from now? I think it's going to be around for a long time because the industry is at times market driven, and a lot of institutions feel that the market means that we need native speakers. But there's some actual research that goes against that. But you asked the question about, do I think that all native speakers can teach?
Yeah, every native speaker. Another one was that.
Every native speaker. I don't think that specifically. I view there's a really interesting diagram. It's by Pasternak and Bailey, 2004. If anyone's interested. And it talks about viewing how we view teachers. And there are supposed to be two continua, if you will, like this.
I see.
And so one of them is teaching proficiency, and the other is language proficiency. And so obviously we would like people, not native speakers or non-native, but people in general, to be highly proficient in the language and highly proficient in teaching. And it seems to me that to be taken only on the value of one of them, I think is doing a disservice to many good teachers within the industry and to our learners. But what are your thoughts on that, Volkan? As a non-native, I hate that term, but as a non-native teacher yourself, surely, you must have a view on this.
Yeah,
as well.
the idea is native speakerism. Like, just like I can say that it's not like that. It's not like kind of a term that if I say, okay, so native speakers. So if the native speakers, it doesn't mean that every native speaker for me, every native speaker can teach. So it doesn't mean that you need to get the right education to teach something. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, you can be a native speaker, but it doesn't mean that you go class and you teach something. So, you need to get the right the education before you go into classroom and before to teach something into classroom. That's what I'm thinking about it. Okay, so you can be a native speaker, you can speak a really, really good English, but it doesn't mean that you teach the language effectively to the students, or you teach the language in the classroom effectively to the students. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about it. I don't know if you are agree or not.
I do. I think obviously language proficiency is something that you can't ignore. To teach any language, you need to have a certain degree of proficiency in the language. I think that is that needs to be stated. But to say that because someone is native and that is the qualifying factor of what makes a teacher, I completely disagree with that. And
I see.
Pretty much all of the professional literature disagrees with that, and most professional institutions disagree with that. And it's against the law. At least here in Europe, you're not supposed to do it, but places do it.
Yeah, some places. Yeah, you're one step ahead. Yeah, something like this. Anyway, all right. Thank you very much, Jim. Let's move to another questions. And also, my next question is also really important term, which is related with the assessment in language classrooms. Yeah, which is really important. And what should be the purpose of the assessment in language classroom? And is every assessment type suitable for every student? What do you think about it?
Oh, you've opened up a can of worms. Yeah, Volkan. I mean, I believe you were speaking to Tom Kiddle.
Yeah,
and
I did.
His area of specialism, if you will, is assessment. My view, I don't think that one assessment is correct for every student. No. I don't think there is a best assessment. I think it needs to be very much dependent on the learner and the learner's needs. and it needs to be determined almost locally. To put that into perspective, if you were to take a task-based approach to assessment, perhaps you might identify a number of tasks that the learners need to complete, and that would be the basis of your assessment. However, when you look at other areas of language teaching, for example, with like children and things like that, assessment is usually determined, sort of top down, with someone saying we need them to have these language points.
I see.
And these language points then kind of determine the syllabus. And that, in my mind, I'm not going to say it's wrong, but I don't think it's completely in line with what SLA research says, and it doesn't take into account individual differences. And so I think there are some problems with that. I'm not saying it needs to be taken away completely. I just don't think that it's perfect.
I see. I see. I got it. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. So about the answer of assessment. So let's move to another question then, if you can. Yeah, probably most of the time, you are a manager and you have lots of the teachers who works under you or follow your comments. Like when probably most of the time they come and ask you like, okay, Jim, can you tell us about the good experiences about teaching? So how can we do it in better? Or how was your first time into the classrooms? And can you tell us some good points about it? But this time I'm gonna ask you vice versa. Can you tell us about one of your bad teaching experiences in your career?
There are many. There are many, Volkan. But I'll choose
All right.
one. Yeah, I think this. When I was working in Italy, I was contracted by a private language academy to go into a public school and provide some conversation classes. And I was teaching this class, and there were about 30, 35. There must have been 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and they were a lovely group. A bit rowdy, as you can imagine. 30 to 35 kids in a class was crazy, but it was fun. But the teacher, the main teacher of this class, she had this habit of, when I was teaching, she would come in and take over my class and teach at the same time that I was teaching. And I tried to speak to her about this a number of times, and it got to the point where I didn't feel like I could work in that situation anymore. And so that was a very bad experience, in that there was a tension between me and the other teacher, and learners could see that, and so it just created a very bad dynamic in the class. And I suppose that was one of those experiences where I reflect on as a trainer. And it makes me realize that teachers need their autonomy. They need to be given their time and their space to be able to run their classes effectively. And they can get feedback, yes, but I don't think we should jump on them and impose our own prescriptive views on their classes.
I see. Okay, so it's a very interesting point that. In a different the teaching experience, the bad one. All right, so thank you very much.
Very bad.
And so let's ask another question. So this is also about the next year. What are you most excited about for the next year, and are you ready for it?
Oof. Next year, yes, I am. I'm ready for next year. I'm always ready for next year.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we are also ready for the next year.
I think next year I'm most excited for a number of things. As a teacher, I'm very excited to see the class that I'm working with succeed in their objectives. As a trader and as a manager, I'm excited because I'm completing my MA at the moment. I'm excited to take on the next module in my MA. And as a manager, I'm also excited to see the opportunities come to fruition, if you will, for the academy. So we're a new academy, but we're experimenting with a number of different things.
I see.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing how these projects pan out.
I see.
And yes, I'm ready. Are you ready,
Yeah,
Volker? Are you ready?
probably I am ready. I'm just ready to, you know, to not to have this COVID-19 for next year. I'm expecting that, but I don't think so. It's gonna happen. I think we will have this for next year too. That's the only thing that I'm waiting for.
Probably.
Anyway, we will see what's gonna
yeah.
happen. Yeah, but I'm also ready for anything happen next year. All right then. So let's move to another the question then. So with the, you know, the reading is really another important area for learning a new language. Then we should all, most of the time, we, you know, advise or suggest to our students, for example, when you go home, please, for example, read something English, go online or read something, or, you know, to get some books to read, and extent, especially, you know, not only in the school, you know, you try, or sometimes we push them to read at home. You know, that's also really important, but sometimes we can't do it because we cannot find the best way to do it. In this term, or what can you suggest to the teachers to increase the extensive reading among their students? Can you just give us a couple tips about it?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, and one that I hope many teachers have. Okay, so first of all, I think we have this misconception that we need to provide learners with content or books that are just normal. Okay, you give them a normal book. Let's say it's a B1 learner, and you give them a novel, for example. And unless a learner is extremely motivated, they're going to struggle to get through that and probably fail in that. So there are a number of things that we need to take into consideration: motivation and level of proficiency and time. And so there's some research to suggest that we should actually give learners short novels, if you will, short stories or books that are at one proficiency level below where our learners are. So that means if our learners are a B1, for example, or something similar, you might give them a story that is graded to an A2 level. And the rationale for this is that it's easier to read, and it increases the amount of words that they're processing, which is going to create a stronger connection. Now, there are other aspects to take into consideration as well. We should combine this extensive reading of something that's lower with us, that's lower than our level per se, to perhaps including narrow reading or reading in our classes, which focuses on elaborated input rather than simplified input. And someone has mentioned demand high in the comments, and it's similar to that. Yes, demand high is really pushing our learners to get the most out of the classes they can, and it's not just simply going through and talking or anything like that. And I think this ties into demand high. But in our classes, we can create materials that could be from authentic texts, but we take those authentic texts that are going to be far too difficult for our learners, and rather than simplifying the input by taking out words or making sentences shorter, we can elaborate that input by putting more words in there, but these words help explain concepts and ideas within the text. Okay, so for example, you might have more relative clauses that explain what things are. So for example, I don't know, I need to think of an example now. Jim saw the amazing red monster truck. That is, monster trucks are very large trucks that people drive on cars. I don't know, but the idea is that you're providing more language to help support that understanding of those features of language that learners may find difficult, rather than simplifying and taking away those learning opportunities. I feel like I just gave you a lot of information there.
No, that's
but
okay.
Those would be my 2 points to consider, I think, for increasing sort of our reading abilities.
I see. Thank you. Thank you very much about it. About this extensive reading. Very useful tips that we can use it about it. Thank you. All right, so let's move to another question, which is about effective language teachers. Can you tell us 5 adjectives that describe an effective language teacher?
Sorry, you cut out five adjectives that describe effective teachers, correct? Oof. Okay, 5. I have to limit myself to 5. Enthusiastic.
Okay, 1. Good. Enthusiastic.
1. Enthusiastic. Empathic.
Okay, 2.
So being able to empathize with our learners. Focus.
Okay, good. 3.
So focused on their learning, but also focused on their learners. I suppose it's a bit of a throwaway, but motivated.
Yeah, okay, good. 4.
I think motivated is a very important one that we as managers and trainers we need to take that into consideration. And I think the last one actually ties in. The last one ties into demand high, and I think teachers need to be. I don't want to say challenged, but they need to be slightly challenged.
Good.
To keep them from not being bored.
I see.
Okay, so they're my 5. I don't know if I cheated there.
No problem. It's okay. Good job. Thank you. It's a great adjectives, which is to describe the effective teachers. Wow. Thank you, Jim. All right. So let's move to another question. Again, it's really the funny questions. If you could have one superpower to use in the classroom, what would it be, and how would it help?
You sent me this question, book, and I didn't know how to answer this. This is probably the hardest question that you've sent me for the whole chat. One superpower, I think it would be as a teacher. My superpower would be to know the secret to the intrinsic motivation in my learners. If I had the superpower that could tell me exactly what would intrinsically motivate my learners to learn English, then I think all of my problems.
I see. It's very interesting. I never heard about it. To know that what is their intrinsic motivation. It's interesting, but it's good. It's very interesting. It helps, definitely. It's really good, and it can be really useful, probably. If you know that how can I motivate? You don't need to push yourself to think about different things. Just like you do this, and give them to something that already motivates them. All right, it's interesting, but it's a good one. Interesting, nice. Thank you very much. And next question. Ready for it? Okay. What was the biggest challenge that you faced this year?
The biggest challenge I faced this year. There have been a number. I don't think coronavirus was the biggest this year, because we've been going through coronavirus for quite a while now. I think the biggest challenge for me, at least this academic year, from in Spain from September onwards, has been dealing with a management role, because this is the first year that I've moved into a full-time director of studies position, and it's very different. I've been training teachers now for quite a while, 3 years or so, as a full-time trainer. But now I've moved into very much a management position, and it's a very different balance, if you will. So I've had to get used to working in front of the computer a lot more. I'm teaching less. having to be very aware of my teachers and what's going on in their lives. Are they having problems? What can we do to help? And so this for me has been a challenge, but a rewarding challenge. I'm very much
I
enjoying.
see. Okay. Thank you. It's a nice challenge for this year. Yeah.
It's it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Ah,
Volkan, have you had any
I
challenges
never
this year?
thought I never thought about it, but there are probably, the challenge was, that the COVID-19, that was the most the biggest challenge, I think, for not only for me, for most of the people all around the world. That was the biggest challenge that they
Yeah,
faced for this year. And but I think sometimes online teaching, that was also the biggest challenge, I think. Yeah, that was also very rush, and having the lessons from home, not from school. But that was also very, the challenge, I think, the biggest challenge that we faced
that
this
was not
year.
fun. It was not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Okay. All right. So let's move to another one. All right. By the way, just a couple questions left, Jim. The time flies. All right. So
Yes, it does.
when you think about it, when you think about the five W's and how, like who, what, where, when, why, and how. So what
Mhm.
questions come to your mind about ELT world?
This is a really good question, and I think all teachers should answer this. I suppose for the who, I think the question is, who are we? And as teachers, I've had a conversation recently with a teacher, and their perspective was, my job is to teach
Mm-hmm.
language and nothing else. And I disagreed with that. I think that we as language teachers, yes, we may be experts in the language, but we are also there to help learners discover who they
I
are.
see.
And so I think one of the who questions is, who are we as teachers?
Uh-huh.
And we should answer that. And that falls in line with our teaching philosophy, I think.
Uh-huh.
The what is, I suppose, what is, I'm going to steal your question, and it is, what is the best method or
Sure.
approach? I think that's a very, very good question to ask. And I think, and I think teachers reflecting on experience will have plenty of different answers, and it's that discussion
Uh-huh.
is really, really important.
Definitely.
Where I was struggling with where. It's a difficult one for the EOT world. I suppose one that I would like answered is, where do I see, or where do we see English as a lingua franca
Mm-hmm.
doing, and what are where is it going, and what are the implications for this? So we spoke before about native speakerism, and perhaps English as a lingua franca is one of the weapons against that. And so that's something to consider as
I
well.
see.
The why, I think this is a very sort of personal one, especially considering our industry is up and
Mm-hmm.
down. Is, at least for me, I think teachers should ask, why am I doing this? And it really helps with the idea of teacher motivation.
I see.
If teachers, I mean, we know if teachers are motivated, then their learners have a better chance of being motivated. So I think that's an
Yeah.
important question.
Thank you.
And
How part?
the how is, how can we get better, Volkan? And I think this is a question not only for teachers at an individual level, but at managers, at trainers. There's always areas where we can look to develop and get
Mm-hmm.
better. So that is my
I
how
see.
question.
I understand. Thank you very much. That really, each of it was really important, and it was really, the useful and meaningful. Thank you very much, Jim, for the answer. Okay, so Jim, I'm sure that you have read lots of things. I mean, about ELT. Probably you are still reading because you are writing a blog. So in this case, what can you suggest us to read about ELT to the teachers?
There's so many books, Volkan. We don't have enough time. We don't have
Just a
enough
couple,
time.
maybe you can suggest
Um,
us.
okay. One book that I think all teachers should read after perhaps their first year or two of teaching is called Understanding Language Teaching by Kumaravadivalu. I always have to think before I say his name.
It's a difficult name,
it's
by
quite
the way.
difficult for me to pronounce. Yes, it is. Understanding Language Teaching. I think that's a brilliant book that everyone should read. It talks about this idea of what is the best method or approach, and yeah. So that would be one. Okay. How many can I have?
No,
Can I have
no
3, 4?
problem.
What's the number?
As long as you want, no problem. You
No.
can ask. You can tell it 20 books.
Okay.
I don't know, 10 books, whatever you want. No problem.
10 books. Geez.
Okay, no,
Okay.
no need to say 10 books. Just a couple, like 3, is it 2, 3? That's enough. But if you want to say more, it's up to you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go a few more. So I said one for teachers. Well, I think that book is for everyone in the language teaching industry. I think for teachers specifically, there are, for those of you, perhaps some people have heard of him, but Chris Rowland is quite a famous writer and teacher, at least here within Spain. And his books on teaching young learners and teaching teens are phenomenal.
I see.
And they are full of practical advice and things that can be information that's actionable, things that you can do with. So that's my one for teachers. For trainers, for people looking to move into training, or for trainers that are already established, there's a book called Trainer Development by Wright and Bolitho, and it is a life-changing book for a trainer. I think that's absolutely amazing. And as a manager, I haven't read too many books for management specifically. But the one that I would recommend is From Trainer to Manager, from I think it's Ron White and Andy Hockley.
Andy Hockley,
and
yeah.
There are a few other authors. Yeah. So those would be my recommendations for now.
I see. Thank you very much. All the books that you recommend here, that's really marvelous. And by the way, if you can just send me the name and the name of the books and the writers after the sessions, so I can share them with the listeners, and in my account I can share them. They're really useful. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you. And the last question of the session. Ready for it?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready.
What is your motto? Hard question.
Again, this is a difficult question. It's a hard question. What is my motto? My motto, sorry. I think my motto is to be better than yesterday.
To be better than yesterday.
And yeah, to be better than yesterday. I think it's something that I try to pass on to my learners. As long as they feel they're improving, and as long as they see their progress, not only linguistically but socially and personally. As a teacher, and for me personally, I always look to get better, and if I'm just that little bit better, I'm happy. So I think that's
I
my
see.
motto.
Thank you very much. That's
for now. Who knows? It may change in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right then. Thank you very much. That all my questions, Jim, and that was really nice that we have a chance to you. Like, and before ending our live sessions, would you like to add anything else?
I just want to say it's been absolutely amazing to speak with you tonight, Volkan. I want to thank you and for all of the viewers out there. I'm a fan. I watch your videos on YouTube. I don't get to see them on Instagram Live, but I do watch them on YouTube. And so I want to thank you very much for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
That was a really great. It's a great honor to have you, Jim, because we know that you are doing also a lot of things for the ALT world, and it was really nice to listen to you here, and we had a really we had a really nice and fruitful session with you tonight. And by the way, let me just come to the end. Like, Jim Fuller was with us tonight, as you know that, and he shared his ideas and suggestions and advices about the questions and about the ELT, and also the most important thing, he spent his time, the precious time with us here. That was really important for us. Thank you very much, Jim, to being with us. That was really nice. to talk to you, and I'm sure that everybody had a nice time like me. And that was all from Teacher Talks tonight. And for the next week, I mean, like the next Monday at the same time on the same day, the Teacher Talks every Monday at 9 p.m. for Turkey, and it depends wherever our guest is in his or her country. That's all from now. And until the next time, take care of yourselves, and good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, wherever you are. Okay, until next time, bye everybody, and peace, and bye bye, Jim. Take care of yourself.
Bye. Take care.